episode 199 of Futures Radio Show, sponsored by CME Group, the world's leading and most diverse futures and options exchange. CME Group's markets help individuals and businesses around the world effectively manage risk. For access to free educational tools and resources for the active individual trader, please visit activetrader.cmegroup.com.
Every day, traders and investors dive in to tackle the ever-changing markets to find opportunity. Futures Radio Show is your number one source for answers to the questions that all market participants want to ask. Veteran futures trader Anthony Crudelli sits down with the most influential leaders and top traders in the industry. Now, here's your host, Anthony Crudelli.
Hey everyone, before we get started today, I want to thank our sponsors. CME Group, Trading Technologies, RJO Futures, and Top Step Trader. Now today I spoke with Drew Mauck, founder and CEO of 3 Points Communications. In today's show, Drew tells us his backstory on how he got his start in the futures industry. Drew and I discussed how the futures industry is a people's business and how PR companies help the top players and companies with branding and getting their products exposed to traders. We chatted about AI and if it's impacted the PR space. We discussed the amazing growth of FinTech in Chicago. And I asked Drew what response he's seen from the futures industry about blockchain technology. Finally, Drew tells us how table tennis and trading go together like hand and glove. As usual, thank you all for listening, and please enjoy this episode. Drew, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Anthony. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you on the show today. Now, we've known each other for a few years. A lot of your clients have been on Futures Radio Show. Your firm represents a lot of the top people and companies in the futures industry. So I wanted to have you on the show today to get a different perspective on the futures industry. I always talk about it on this show that I think it's important to go beyond the charts, understand our industry. And you're right at the pulse of it. You talk with all of these top people and companies in the industry. So we're going to have a lot to talk about today, Drew. But first off, I want to know, how did you get your start in the financial industry?
Well, thanks. I graduated from Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois in 2000. And I imagine this is the case with more than a few college seniors. You're feeling good because you got good marks. Maybe you had some positions on campus that gave you some leadership training, and you're like ready to go to get into the workforce. But in 2000, you may recall the internet bubble had burst, and there just wasn't a lot of entry-level stuff out there, at least that I could find. So I got a job because you got to keep working, even if you don't find your dream job right away. And eventually I bumped into a guy named Ray Carmichael, who had a PR agency called Strategics. And that was important because Ray was the Board of Trade's VP of Communications, and he had left to start his own shop, and we were from the same town, and he saw me kind of hustling but not really truly satisfied. So he invited me in, and we had an interview, and off I went into the futures industry.
So, Drew, a lot of people come on this show, and I ask them, how did they get their interest in derivatives and futures markets? In the early days, maybe it was in college or even prior, did you even know what futures are? Did you understand derivatives markets?
Yeah, not so much. I had a little bit of an exposure just growing up around Chicago and Evanston. So, didn't just about everybody knew somebody who was connected to the floor. So I had a tangential exposure to the markets that way. And I, took some econ classes and so forth. But I really had no way of knowing or really appreciating the impact the futures markets have on the global economy, and then specifically right here in Chicago. That is just a massively important industry. But when I got that job at Strategics, every day was different, and the markets were always keeping us on our toes. Even though we weren't trading, we were communicating on behalf of firms that are involved in trading. So you just had to have your game put together because the markets, they don't stop.
No, they don't. Now, you help your customers, your clients build their brand, and as consumers, we buy brands that we're comfortable with, brands that we trust, and that we believe are reliable. So in the trading industry, there are many brands out there that traders, we don't know about. and you're hired by these companies and these people to help with branding. So talk to us about why branding is so important in the trading industry, and talk to us about some of the things that you do to shed light on these brands.
Yeah, thanks. I have a joke. It's not so much true anymore, but when I was back in strategics and just really getting into the biz, there was a lot of the floor traders that were branching out and starting their own businesses. Maybe their trade had dried up or their pit had dried up, what have you. But they themselves had not had a lot of experience with brands and marketing. So there were difficult conversations when we were trying to prove our value. And I would kind of joke after some of these meetings that some of the traders would insist that they were not influenced by brands and that they were completely making purchases based on the utility that a product or service would have for them. And yet it was those same traders that would show off a particular thing in their life that they were proud of, such as their Ferrari or their Rolex or their MacBook. So talking about the brands that they enjoy, but then saying it's really not about the brand, it's about some other thing. So we would talk to them about it, and we would say, listen, if you're going to accept customer money and get out of the prop trading mentality, then you need to have something that people trust, and they have to be aware of you. So that's really PR's function, is to help raise the credibility and trust for a brand, and of course make sure that people are at least familiar with the brand.
Look, I'm the perfect example of a trader in this industry for the first 15 years of my career, just focused on the charts, just focused on trading. And when new technologies were coming out, unless I heard through my firm or through the trading floor, I didn't know about them. And I was late to the party on a lot of the new technologies. And I didn't really know a lot of the different companies prior to Futures Radio Show. And now I've learned that I need to stay on the pulse of the changing technologies. Because let's face it, this industry is always changing. What new products are coming out? What new companies are rising up and offering different tools that as a trader that I can use to help my trading? And thanks to companies like you at 3 Points, not just helping these companies brand themselves on social media or at these shows, but bringing awareness. To me, that's the biggest thing, bringing awareness to traders in the industry to know what some of these new technologies and products are that these companies are offering.
Exactly. And our clients ask us to help elevate awareness of them, usually through one of 3 ways. The first one you just touched on, social media. So it doesn't take a rocket science to realize you need to be in the game there. But what we kind of do is help vet the platforms that we think would work, come up with some messages and some key strategies in order to not just be active on social media, but to make sure that your story is getting out there. So social media is a big lift, and that's a lot of fun, right? Because those tools are changing month to month. New ones are popping up. Existing platforms are nuancing, what they have to offer. And so it's something that we can always go to help our clients get their name out there. The second way we help them is through old school media relations. And that's usually what people think about when they talk about public relations. They think about what's your game plan to engage with the media. And I love the media. I just think they play an incredibly critical role in our democracy. And I think that they do things that a lot of people wouldn't want to do, but need to be done. They ask tough questions. They look at places where it might not be, sexy, but they're going to find out the answers to things that are important to society. On the trade level, just in the futures industry, it's a pretty resourceful group that they enjoy trading. They know their industry, but they're not going to run commercials for you. You've got to really find a way to stand out, and they're going to find a way to help them do their jobs if you're going to expect any exposure from them. So social media, earned media, and then the third way we help clients is helping them create content. We're not really talking about like splashing new websites or a sales brochure, but getting with their executives and leaders of the firm to find out what stories we can tell on behalf of those companies and put it out in the public domain so that, again, there's increased credibility and awareness of what our clients are doing. And a lot of times we do that through the executives of the companies. So on a very basic level, that could be putting together a post on LinkedIn from an executive about why she or he made a particular decision on behalf of the company. Things like that let you inside the brains of executives, in our experience, helps create a bond and trust with the end user.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I've said for many, many years, as this industry has become so much more about electronic trading, that it's still a people's industry. It's a people business. And you work with some of these big clients in the industry. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the process and getting to know these clients and helping them with their brand, because I have met so many great people in this industry, like you said, on the executive side, that I just think very highly of, and you don't really know a lot about their brand. Like their personality doesn't come through it sometimes, and you help them with that. How does that all work? How do you get to know the client and then help their personality come out through their branding?
It's hokey, but anytime 3 Points onboards a client, the first thing we do with them is play something called 20 questions. That's a real informal way of getting to know the executives, the company, what their experience with PR has been, find out where they go for information, find out where their potential buyers go for information, and see what we can find out about that person that's going to provide a little bit more color and intrigue around their personal brand and around their company's brand. So after we play 20 questions, we start the immersion process, and it's really fun to run a boutique agency because you get young talent coming out of college that want to make a difference. They're energetic, they're optimistic, and we work many times on site with clients. So, we don't really want to be the fax machine, email, Slack-driven company. We want to be present and on site, and so we immerse ourselves in their business that way. One of the reasons we've been successful in trading is that we just decided we really wanted to know the business of trading so that we could give good PR advice. A lot of agencies give good PR advice, but they don't always understand the industry that they're representing. So we try to reverse that. First get to know the industry, then do the consultations.
Yeah, one of the hot topics that is at pretty much every show you and I attend, I know you attend a lot more than I do, is AI. We hear about how it's changing every aspect of the financial industry. So I'm curious, as someone who's in PR, have you been impacted at all by AI?
Yeah, that's a good question, Anthony, and probably one that every industry should be asking. AI has been an interesting movement in that our clients are active in that space, and they're coming up with new technologies to eliminate some of the more tedious tasks that a professional may have in trading. I think we can talk about that in terms of compliance and having someone on staff who needs to review X amount of trades in a day. Well, with AI, that would significantly cut down the amount of work that person would need to do, and it would probably be more accurate because it's a machine. In public relations, most of what we do is person to person. Obviously, there's a lot of writing involved in pitching, but there's no direct corollary that I can think of right now for AI. However, what it has shown to be a formidable disruptor in public relations is the gig economy. And that's where someone may have a day-to-day job, and they've decided that they're going to moonlight and do communications or PR. And there's certainly some pitfalls if you're a client looking to go and find an individual practitioner who's doing that, but they also have a lot of promise too. So what we do at 3 Points is really try to stay on our game and be aware that should we not fulfill the expectations that we have of ourselves, that our clients have more and more options every day, it seems like, to get strategic communication counsel. You don't necessarily have to go to the big box communication firms to get, effective strategy for your business.
Yeah, I want to stay on technology here. I want to talk about FinTech in Chicago. I just hosted an event actually called the Startup Exchange, and it was a great event. It was great to see all of these startups in the futures industry, and the FinTech in Chicago is growing rapidly. It seems to be exploding. I mean, we had a huge audience when we were there. A lot of people commenting on social media as well. And you're on the pulse of this growth of FinTech in Chicago. So I'm wondering, what do you think about it? And what are your clients thinking about this FinTech growth in Chicago?
Thanks for that. You gave me the opportunity to lightly plug Pan Exchange because they did win the Startup Exchange that you hosted, and they're a valued 3 Points client. So they definitely enjoyed last week. And thanks to Barchar for putting on that event on behalf of 3 Points and Pan Exchange. But to answer your question specifically, what are our clients thinking? They're loving it. It makes sense that Chicago is the epicenter for financial technology. We have the exchanges here that have become technology firms themselves. We've got the trading firms that are always pushing the pace from a technology perspective. And then you've got the discernment of risk and reward that I feel like traders embody more than any other type of professional. I mean, when your job is, pretty binary, did you win or did you lose money? Was it worth the risk? And if you're asking that of yourself incessantly, even if you leave the trading business, that paradigm is going to stick with you. So we're enjoying the fact that a lot of the entrepreneurs in trading are in FinTech have some connection to trading. Doug Monison, for example, I think he's still pretty active CME Eurodollar futures trader, is the chairman emeritus of Hyde Park Angels, which is the most active angel investment firm in Chicago. And that's just a great example of someone who has traded and will continue to trade for many years, but has also brought that discipline and ability to assess risk and rewards to the FinTech industry.
Yeah, I have to say it's really great to see the growth of the FinTech space in Chicago. Growing up in Chicago was never really known as a technology hub. It was known as a trading hub that we talked about with the trading floors. And now seeing some really good talent head over to Chicago and see it grow as fast as it has, I think is really cool. I want to talk a little bit about cryptos. How much interest have you seen in the futures industry trying to get involved with crypto assets and blockchain technology?
Wow, a ton. I mean, we've been telling clients for a couple of years now that this is what we're seeing, and on the crypto side at least, hearing all over the place, and that if they didn't have a playbook for crypto or a roadmap, that they should get on that, because we saw it coming, and most of our clients wholeheartedly agreed and have some type of strategy in place. I think it's been a fantastic development for traders. Certainly they like the volatility, the speculative nature of it, but just, more on a professional level, having gone to so many conferences over the years, you start to pick up on the vibe, and there wasn't a lot of optimism in the traditional conferences that I went to. Securities industry, futures industry, and the options folks. I mean, it was kind of the same thing. Let's talk about some regulation, what new products might work, what regions of the globe are going to be hot, whatever. But it was, I won't quite say it was a malaise, but it felt like the industry was going through the motions. In walks crypto, and all of a sudden people are passionate. They are, tirelessly trying to figure it out. And in that regard, it's been fun because we have clients active in crypto. And even at 3 Points, we have a very modest coin holding, and we did that mostly just so that we would understand the process by which you would need to do it and to trade it and to be a really an authentic member of the crypto community.
It's amazing, the growth, isn't it, Drew? I mean, for all the doubters out there, when you hear it from Drew, someone who works with top people and companies in the futures and financial industry, and you hear it from you say that it's been huge, and how everybody seems to want a piece of this, it says a lot.
Yeah, it's been fun kind of watching the more established players kind of methodically and what I would say is very slowly get involved. Um, because I'm 15 or so years into my career, I remember when the futures industry was considered a little bit of the gunslingers, the Wild West, and New York was really the buttoned up trading community. And then when the futures listed on Bitcoin, that was a moment of huge credibility for that industry. And I just thought, well, it's a little ironic that it's the futures gals and boys that are providing the credibility for crypto, when for years futures themselves lacked credibility.
Yeah, I mean, this is a major shift in the trading industry taking place right in front of our eyes. So stay tuned, everybody. Now, Drew, I want to move on to our last question before we get into rapid fire. And it was something that you mentioned to me a little while ago, and I was waiting to hear the answer when we were on the show. You were saying something along the lines of like how table tennis and trading go together like hand in glove. Explain to us how that is.
Here's how. Trading, and specifically programming in the modern era, means a lot of working at your computer and not standing up and not running around and not yelling. So in order to have your brain at peak performance, movement matters. And table tennis fits into a lot of trading firms' space, and it allows people to get up away from their machines and get the juices flowing. And it just so happens that that particular pastime is popular in regions that also produce strong programmers. So Eastern Europe, parts of Asia, and really it's becoming more of a global game, table tennis. And to the extent that it allows you as a worker to get up, to connect with someone that you may not work with over a game of table tennis, that then actually makes you better at your job when you do go back to your desk or wherever it is you work, shows me that this is something that traders and trading firms have really grown to appreciate.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Great insight today, taking us behind the scenes, Drew, but we're not done yet. I have some rapid fire questions if you're ready for those.
Hit me.
All right, everyone, our rapid fire segment is sponsored by Trading Technologies. Access the global markets from virtually anywhere with TT. They are the world's fastest commercially available futures trading platform. And now you can trade cryptocurrency spot and derivative markets side by side. For more information, please visit tradingtechnologies.com. Drew, what trader has influenced your life the most and why?
I can give you three names. Harris Brumfield, because he really had a vision for technology and making it as widely available as possible. And as he was a very large trader, that comes with a large personality and a person that was really very rarely satisfied with the status quo. So Harris definitely influenced me early in my career. And I've also spent years working with Hehmeyer. Chris is a stand-up guy with a great reputation. He's a business guy, but he is also a trader as well. And so I've been influenced by the way he goes about doing his business, which is always sealed with a handshake, and someone that I know is going to do everything he says he's going to do. I still play some hoops with Blair over at the Union League Club, and Blair and I don't have much of a professional relationship, which isn't bad. I just have played with him for years, and I love his steadiness, and that even, without giving him up too much of his own personal information, that at his age, he's still getting out on the hardwood, getting his shots up, and getting back to the desk to get more trades in.
What's the number one resource you spend your time on?
One of the wonderful things about being in PR is you're literally paid to consume media. So I read a lot. The folks that I read in this industry would include Anthony Malakian. He does a wonderful coverage of technology as it relates to trading. He's at Waters Tech. A new guy, Frank Chaparro from Business Insider, is really funny on Twitter. He's a big crypto guy, and he is giving the trading industry a lot of attention in his coverage. So that's a good follow. And then from the more classical media, I enjoy reading Nichole Bullock's work from Financial Times. She's the market structure specialist, and I always think she does a pretty good job kind of cutting to the chase when it comes to new regs for the exchanges.
What's your favorite book about trading or the markets?
Whew. Favorite book about trading or the markets? Yeah, I don't think that I have a favorite one. I think what I do the most there is consume the content from those journalists. I've not traded in my career. I've certainly bought and sold, but I think, what keeps me up on trading is taking in information on Twitter from traders like yourself, and then those journalists I mentioned.
What's your favorite movie or TV show about trading or the markets?
My favorite show is probably Billions right now. That has gotten a ton of play in pop culture. Having never worked at a hedge fund, I don't know how much of it is based on like reality or if it's just totally sensationalized, but that one definitely has me coming back for more.
What's the best piece of advice that you've received about the markets?
The best piece of advice, well, two pieces that are probably of equal value. Buy what you understand. And I live that one. You're not going to find anything in my portfolio that I can't explain to you how it operates and what it does. And then always have an exit plan. When I was younger, I heard from a seasoned futures commission merchant executive, and he said that most people have been trained to think about the entry of a trade, but not the exit. And so much money, time, and energy can be saved if you actually have a plan for your exit. So, of course, get excited and think about your entry point, but you better have an exit point that goes along with that.
Now, if you could give a piece of advice to the new people interested in getting involved with markets, what would it be?
Stay busy. I am fortunate to get a lot of resumes and requests to meet with nieces and nephews of people that are coming out of college and looking for jobs. There's absolutely no excuse that you can't be working the day after you leave college. You can get a job at a temp agency. You can become an Uber driver. There's 1,000 ways that have low bars, but would provide valuable work experience. So if you're looking to get a job, the best way to do it is to have a job. And it doesn't matter what it is, but if you're not working, it's going to be tough to get that first big time gig. So get something going.
Last question for today. If you weren't involved with the markets, you'd be doing what?
I think because we're finally experiencing some spring in Chicago, that I think I would be in landscaping. I don't know what it is about it, but I think it's great to be in the great outdoors and up early, and that would be a lot of fun.
Drew, this was awesome. Where can people find you on social media? We'll go with Twitter, and give us a website to check out.
Thanks a lot. I'm pretty easy to find on Twitter. I'm at DREWMAUCK, at Drew Mauck. The firm handle is 3PTS com, COMM, and then that's our website as well, 3ptscom.com. Google 3 Points in Chicago, and we should pop up. And if any of those folks that are listening want to chat about their marketing PR needs, I'd be more than happy to grab a cup of coffee and do that.
Yeah, everyone, I highly recommend you go and check out Drew on Twitter and go to 3points.com if you're interested. I've worked with them over the years, and Drew and his entire team are really awesome. So, Drew, thank you again so much for coming on Futures Radio Show.
Anthony, it was my pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for listening to Futures Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for myself or my guests, please visit futuresradioshow.com and sign up to be a premium member for free. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes.